I was walking down a road one day, on my own, no one around, and I heard someone calling. Wait! Stop! Stop! Wait! I turned round and I saw an old lady with a walking stick hobbling towards me. When she reached me, she looked at me and said, "You have experienced fear, and it scared you. I have a tip to help you deal with fear. This is what you do. Next time you face fear, you must feel it in your legs, in your stomach, in your head. You must make it real. It's got to be the worst fear ever. And then you let it go. And then when you go to face your fear, you won't be so afraid." And with that, she turned and hobbled off. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, I am not normally one stuck for words. But what would you do if an old lady came up to you and said, "Here's a tip for dealing with fear"? I ask you. By the time I got my thoughts together and I was ready to answer her, she'd gone. But she was right. I had experienced fear. Help me. Can you imagine the last time or a time when you felt really afraid? Can you get that feeling? Well, that's how I felt when I stood in front of an audience for the very first time, 300 people, to give them my first speech. I wasn't just scared. I was absolutely petrified. And I got off that stage so quickly. Oh, haunts me to this day. But I got over it. Well, after a while, I forgot about this lady and her tip for dealing with fear until one evening I was invited by my next door neighbour to come and have a barbecue. Lovely summer's evening, we're sitting there relaxing, and suddenly we noticed smoke billowing across the garden. My neighbour jumped up and he took a look and he said, "It's coming from your side of the fence." "Oh no, it's coming from the back, over the other side of the fence where your other neighbour is, George. You have got to do something about it." "Me? I'm relaxing and having a barbecue." Next thing I know, I had been picked up, pushed out the front door, and there I was, back in my own house, standing in the kitchen, looking out, peering out rather, the back window to where George was waiting behind the fence with his fire. Do you remember that fear I just told you to think about? It just hit me. My legs just went to jelly, and the rest of me went to jelly too. Fear just engulfed me, and I was thinking, I could imagine George. He was 8 feet tall. He was 3 feet wide. He had hands the size of shovels. He had teeth as sharp as razors. I was panicking. I blinked, and then I saw the lady looking at me from the glass in front of me. And she said, "Remember the tip for dealing with fear. You must experience it in your legs." I am. You must experience it in your stomach. There too. You must experience it all over. You must feel completely afraid. You must think of the worst case scenario that's going to happen to you. And you'll find, when you let it go, it won't feel so terrifying. It's all very well for you to say that, but I had to go out there. I blinked again, she disappeared. And bizarrely, although I didn't know it, my legs stopped trembling and I could start to move. And then I started heading out into the garden. Steps were heavy as I walked down the garden to the end of the fence. I could see the fire, I could see the smoke coming over the fence. I was getting closer to George. My mouth had gone dry at this point. I reached the fence. I looked over, and there I could see George silhouetted against the flames of his bonfire that he'd been making. All 5'3" of him. He was tiny! And you should have seen how much he jumped when I called out to him. He was not expecting to see my head appearing over the fence, though, no. Turns out that he had to get rid of some rubbish, and he thought that the best thing to do was to have a bonfire. Well, we came to an agreement. He put the fire out, and I took him to a rubbish dump the next day. And then I walked back to the barbecue and got a round of applause from my next door neighbour. Felt really good. Dealt with the fear. Sometime later, I'm walking down a road. On my own, no one around. I hear someone calling to me. Wait! Stop! Wait! I turn around. There's the old lady, hobbling towards me. She comes up to me and she says, "You have experienced fear. You were not afraid. Now you must take this message and teach it to others, because there are so many people who are held back by fear." Before she disappeared this time, I looked at her and smiled, and I said, "I am on my way to give a speech to a group of people who I believe will benefit greatly from your message. And the title of my speech is A Tip for Dealing with Fear." Mr. Fontaine.